Okay, so I'm only gonna touch up on DXY EU. It's the only thing I've been looking at this week. EG, like for example, if we look at EG, nothing's really happened since our Saturday review, so we'll probably go over that on Saturday. Just simple. Just let's even see how this week. I mean, this daily close. See, extremely bearish. Nothing changes here. Right, nothing changes here. Unless that's taken out. If that's taken out, then I'm gonna be worried. But nothing new here. Could be due for a correction, but I do think we will take out last week's low. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see any relative, any solid POIs. Either way, I wouldn't be wanting to buy this, but yeah, because that kind of reacted somewhere. Who knows, right? Bearish volume's still there. If we don't break essentially here, I'm not going to be too interested in here anyway, because there's liquidity sitting there. But obviously, bearish order flow is still intact, so nothing, like I said, nothing new, nothing's changed here. Especially from what Falco pointed out earlier today, right? The fact that we had this happen, right? You can easily just see this roll over, right? For example, if you want to consider these structure points, right? Higher high, higher low, unwillingness. But yeah, nothing new here either way, right? If we're looking at actual structure here, still bearish, right? Not until any of these breaks. Super deep retracement, right? But well, for example, something I've noticed too with these super deep retracements, right, is you'll get that initial reaction, but you need a catalyst in order for it to continue higher, because technically that's technically what you want to see, right? But if you do see something like that, you'll see like corrective structure, and then you'll see unwillingness, conservative continuation, right? So these deep retracements aren't necessarily bad, but these are high risk trades. Like for example, GJ, I was looking at that. I don't have that. This one's been a funky one too. Like if that wants to open up, head and shoulders. Yeah, you see like where are these? Like here, super deep retracements. Right, super deep retracement. Right, gives a reaction. You have to incite that, but it didn't give you that liquidity grab. Right, gave you the break of structure. Right, so this is extremely high risk, whereas this is your conservative. Right, doesn't mean this is a bad entry to take. I'm just saying it's high risk, less probable. Yeah, but you see this pair do it all the time. So it's definitely a tendency of, I would say it's a tendency of pound pairs. I do see that in GU too. Yeah, but like as you can see, this is a pretty much good example of just knowing structure. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started on this. Yo, what is going on? Okay. Okay, so for the most part, right, we know that we're bearish. Okay, we know that we're bearish, right? So here, even what I touched on earlier with deep retracements, I'm gonna just show you another example here, which is what we're seeing live and what we've been seeing for a while, or for like the past week. Right, we're still bearish, right? High, low, high, low, high, right? So in order for me to judge, you know, the direction I'm wanting to take, I have to zoom in. So I just zoom in pretty deep here, right? So now I'm looking at, whereas you could call this a swing structure, now you're looking at major intraday. I don't really like focus on that when I'm doing this myself. Like I don't say, oh, this is my major intraday, oh, this is my minor intraday. The reason why I do that, and I tell you guys this, is because I want you to have a reference. All I care about at the end of the day is I'm looking at my higher time frame legs, and then I'm breaking the legs down as I see fit, right? Because all I'm trying to do is find a bias that makes sense to me while acknowledging where my higher time frame is, right? So when you're looking at structure, all you have to know is what type of structure am I looking at, right? For whoever's listening to this, what kind of structure am I looking at? Which structure levels correlate with each other? And for example, here, although we're still bearish, right? This could easily, come down here and then just start flying because of this deep retracement, right? But even though we had that deep retracement, if we're starting to look in a structure here, actually I'll go to H1. Right, so the reason why I use this low and this high, right, we can see this low here, which created the high that took out the initial structure. So that could even be another range, but it is what it is. So low to high, and then low, right, to high up here, right? The reason why I'm doing this entire leg and not just, for example, what's in red is because this is what took out our structure point. Lows that create highs, highs that create lows. And although on this structural level, it doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't a structure point or this isn't a structure point, but I'm focusing on the picture at hand, right? And I'll zoom in as needed. So I know where my swing structure is, right? So now I'm looking at my major intraday structure to see if that supports or if it doesn't support, right? So if we're going here, right, low to high, right, the reaction here is now your next higher low. Higher low. And as you can see, immediately after that, right, we got the reaction, and here's that M15 POI that we were talking about last week, which played out here. And we even came back to like relatively 50% here this morning. Okay, so if we're looking at this, right, this, because this is essentially higher low here, this is not unwillingness because this is showing an unwillingness to continue higher, and it's created a lower low here, right? Which is why I've been bullish for this pretty much this entire week. Well, not bullish, but bearish on this, bullish on the EU. Because remember when I told you if you get this unwillingness, right, this is now what I consider showing its hand here, a clean structure break, right? And all this did was play out here, which was around London session last night. I tried here, and I'll bring that up on the EU chart, right? But as you can see now, right, this is showing its hand. This came back to mitigate something inside of this candle, right, and has now broken these well, not this last one, but broken these two structural levels in a smaller time frame, which would probably be like a scalping minor intraday thing, right? Probably minor intraday. These are probably minor intraday lows. But as you can see, this unwillingness has created a lower low. So if you're gonna ask me, why isn't this considered the higher low instead of this? Well, I'm looking at distance, not essentially just lows and highs. And what do I mean by that? This is something you have to catch on with time, right? I've shown you stuff like this before, okay? Like stuff like this, right? Measuring moves, right? Notice that it didn't reach as far, but it met the distance requirement here for me. So I don't take this to heart, but I do acknowledge it because it's very easy to confuse structural levels and be like low, high, and then low, right? It's easy to confuse that, but with experience, you'll see that this was actually the retracement of this essential structural range to continue bullish structure, right? But because we got a reaction here, right, which then led to an unwillingness and a clean structure break, I now know my directional bias. So now it's just a matter of trying to get, that particular entry so that we can continue bearish order flow. Yeah. I don't tell you guys that though, and that's not something I tell you because it's something you got to figure out, right? Because structure is understanding highs and lows, it's understanding distance, and it's understanding time, right? Distance, right? Like I said, right? Even here, you see that essentially the same distance, but not the same time. So yeah, it varies, right? It's intuitive. But anyways, back to this. Okay, so let me just delete all this right here. Okay, so as we are zooming in here, if I go to M15, okay, right, this is our pullback. We got the reaction, right, but we came back to mitigate this that we talked about. Okay, so this mitigation then led to our scalping, and then our minor intraday, then our major intraday low. Okay, that created this bearish leg here. So naturally, price would come back to mitigate this entire candle here. So I don't think this hit 50%. I don't know exactly where this hit. Actually, there's even a candle right, and actually no, there's a wick right there. Yeah, you see, hit that. I just noticed a wick inside of there. So I'm probably not going to break that down. You guys know. So over time, right, instead of me trying to essentially, find these wicks and try to break them down, all I have to know is understand the principle behind an SC, which is obviously the 4 rules. And using those 4 rules, if I see that doing that type of action inside the wick, then it could be a potential point of interest. But as you can see, that's what happened here, right? Clean scalping break of structure here based off of right, taking out this low, structure range there, break of structure, pullback, continuation, and that's where we are right now. Makes a lot of sense, right? We've been talking about this since last week, and because we saw this happen, right, that also gives me much more clarity in what I'm going to show you with EU. And this, for the most part, still looks pretty bearish in my eyes, right? We see the order flow here, right? So depending on what happens here, we can easily just see a continuation. Preferably, that's what I would like to see, to continue bearish order flow there. Like for example, last week, I believe it was last week. Hopefully you guys can't hear my dogs, they're so loud. I believe it was where we said, I don't remember exactly where it was. I think it was on EU. I should go to that now. Right, I think it was here. Okay, here. Where we said that theoretically we wouldn't want, I guess, this range to be broken. Why? Because we would have liked to continue that bullish order flow. But as you can see, we broke it and now created bearish order flow. Right, you see it there. Right, came back here, which actually came back to 2 specific POIs. Right, the H4 inefficiency fill there, and I believe it was like a 5-minute. Yeah, even came back to this candle here. Extremely hard to catch, right? Extremely hard to catch. For the most part, if you actually wanted to catch this type of trade, I'll show you right now. But before that, right, because we broke this, right, we now initiated bearish order flow to the downside. And right here, the initial break of structure there, right, although we now have POI confluence and minor time frame structure confluence, right? That's what now led right to almost hitting 50% here, right, in the middle of London session, and then that's what created that push there, right, which is, I believe, here 9:30. This gave another entry at 10:45, extremely late in session. But it's pretty weird right now, because if we're looking at EU, right, if we're looking at our structure here, right, we still have downside here for my major intraday. We have our unwillingness, right, which is that M15 that we talked about on DXY, which created this low to this high. You're now in this range, and we returned into a into a discount, right? So because we've essentially taken out these highs, right, I'm pretty convinced we can easily take out these highs up here. And if that happens, right, we now have a very, very strong narrative in play. And what do I mean with that? Right, this here is now going to be seen as our pullback, right, that we just talked about. And this could be the unwillingness if we take these highs out here, right? So this would now lead to us showing its hand, even though we've already seen some moves in these smaller time frames. We're essentially now just seeing that real showing its move, even though we've already, obviously noticed that here based on the structure. But we now have a very strong case for wanting to target these highs. Why? Because I actually look back here, right, and we filled an H1 inefficiency there, right, M45 too, but I'm looking at H1 there. We filled inefficiency perfectly, right? We now broke here to here. We broke major intraday structure, right? And now if we have the major intraday pullback here, create a new high, we now have a swing break of structure. So that is now giving us a very strong case to give us a very good high probability to at least, in my opinion, come back into these premium highs, which is about a couple, maybe 150 pips ish, because there's always the chance, right, that this could be seen as a break of structure here and give you downside. But I don't trust that bias, mainly for the fact that if we look at EU, actually I'll go to H8. Gonna hide that, right? Because for the most part, what we see here, right, very narrow corrections, very narrow, very short, not necessarily deep, right? But this could very well be another short retracement to give us higher movement, and that could easily lead to now heading over for these next highs over here, right? So you see how we're printing out an entire bias just based off of first initially getting this this major intraday structure break, to giving us that initial quote unquote showing its hand, so that then we can get, essentially this would have been the perfect opportunity to then give us that swing moment where it's showing its hand, and then that's when we can start targeting, extremely, or pretty much very much higher targets, which is up here, right? And that's how you essentially develop those quote unquote 1 to 100s, 1 to 200s, right? And that's how you get those 3-4 month swings that essentially teach you patience, teach you how to hold, and yeah, that's pretty much how you get these these big targets. All right, so does that make sense? Okay, yeah, so would love, right, to not see this break. Would love to not see that break. Want to see this just take off. They're being so loud tonight. And I jinxed it for myself this morning too. I said, damn, I haven't heard my dogs during the calls. Something must be wrong. But yeah, I pretty much jinxed myself. But yeah, anyways, does that make sense? Do y'all see what I'm getting at here? Cool, yeah, but I mean, other than that, I mean, pretty much broke down the entire pair today. Can we use DXY for GU in relation to C correlation? I don't know, can you? Makes sense with 6 month DXY. Do I even have 6 month? No, I don't. I don't pay attention much to 6 month closure. I pay attention to quarter closures. Yeah. I mean, would have been perfect to get some type of pullback. And I'm pretty sure we might get one, but based off how this is looking, we can't assume that, if that makes sense. Like I said with EU, you can't assume that. Which is why I've never been bearish on EU. It just doesn't make sense. You can catch those intraday's, but in the long run, it doesn't really matter. You're just honestly you're essentially trying to guess highs and lows. I mean, we're trying to guess highs. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, like I said, look at these corrections. Yeah, long term. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we can definitely see a premium and then finally see some type of pullback. That would honestly be preferred, but you can't assume that. Like I'm saying, you can't assume that. You can't assume that. Especially with today's daily closure, you can't assume that. Like this could easily start rocketing. Right, especially, right, noticing effort here, right? You see this bearish volume increasing, but look at these indecision candles. Right, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And even here, right, look at these last two candles here. Right, showing no supply. So yeah, even though we were optimistic with that, we were trying to be optimistic with that inefficient pricing. Right, we were optimistic with that. We didn't get it, but it's okay. We still have the same thing happen here, and the same thing happen here. So if it didn't work one time, didn't work 2 times, why should we expect it to work 3 times? You see what I'm saying? But yeah, other than that, do you guys have any questions? As for videos, I'm trying to do, especially starting tomorrow, I'm trying to do like 2 a day, and then just limit myself to 2 a day in terms of the videos, so I can just dedicate the rest of the time to getting going with school. But yeah, any questions, anybody? Videos. Oh. Yeah, too much can be exhausting, and I don't want to like half-ass the videos, you know? Because it's so much content compared to the first course. Like the first course took me, let's see, it took me about 4 months to do the entire process from writing down the titles the descriptions to then making my own little scripts before the videos. That took me about 4 months. So this time, I started the videos. Well, I started pretty much doing the outline in November. So it's been, yeah, 3-4 months. Yeah, so far so good. It'll get done. So like, I'm not stressing it. It's gonna get done regardless. Which is why I didn't want to set a time frame. Right, just something, a little motto for today, I guess. Right, something I like to tell myself. Right, apply pressure, but never stress. Damn. Yeah, apply pressure, never stress. Do you know the difference between pressure and stress to begin with? Like pressure can be something that motivates you, whereas stress is something that can demotivate you. So yeah, but other than that, I don't have anything else to cover today. I'm probably just gonna be looking at EU for the most part. GU been sloppy. Not something I want to trade. Like look at this, not something I want to trade. EG is just, it's extremely low to look for any type of, you know, long-term opportunity. So, you know, I'd love to see a pullback. Just give me this. And then we can actually start targeting here. That BTC idea, what are you talking about? What are you talking about with BTC? I mean, I showed you what I was looking at. I wasn't like, the thing is it's not something I was trading. Right, literally all this was I literally just showed you this. Right, you see here and here, then you see here and here. That's all that is. I don't know what you want me to explain here. It's not like I took a trade on it. I don't margin trade cryptos. But I'm bearish on this. I'm not thinking that, especially with so many people buying in a hype. Would love to see this. Just give me this tank here. Is the second course? No, it's gonna be more in depth. Why would I teach new concepts? That doesn't make sense. I'm adding concepts, but I'm not teaching completely new concepts. Like for example, the turbulence point of invalidation, all those just support and add on to previous material. The outline is somewhere in the announcements, in case you haven't looked back. I sent like a screenshot, which I think I've taken out one video because like I believe it was repetitive, but it's pretty much what I showed in the outline. Yeah, all that is just adding detail. That's all it is. He was doing a video as well. Yeah, I have that. It's in my files. Yeah, it's in my files. I just couldn't add it for obvious reasons. But yeah, yeah, hopefully I get these videos done soon though, because I want to start, you know, trading seriously again and start posting again. That way I can start posting pair breakdowns again. I can start doing markups again. Only issue is time. Yes, sir. But yeah, I'll catch you guys on Saturday morning.